The Painscreek Killings begins with a simple assignment. We are a news reporter sent to a dying town before the land is all sold off for good. Our goal? Find out who killed Vivian Roberts. But the deeper we go, the less this feels like just an isolated murder. It feels like a town revolving around secrets. We have a dead heiress, a vanished maid, a missing private detective, and a hidden child. 4 mysteries, all leading back to the same mansion. This video is our halftime report. Everything we know so far and everything we don't. When the case is solved, we'll come back for the full-time report. If murder mysteries are your thing, stop this video right now and play the Painscreek Killings. Seriously, this game is better if you go in blind. Or, if you want to watch me stumble through the evidence, the full series playthrough is on my channel, link in description. This is your last warning. Spoilers ahead. Are you still with us? Okay, here's everything we know so far. The murder. In 1995, Vivian Roberts was murdered and dragged to the front of her mansion. Her body was left there overnight to be found by her housekeeper, Mary Martinez. The killer was never caught. This is our first mystery. Who killed Vivian Roberts? But every clue seems to point backwards, because 20 years before the murder, something horrific happened in Painscreek. Lies were told, and people died. So before understanding the murder, we need to understand the past. Bloodlines. 20 years before Vivian's murder, the Roberts family had everything. Vivian was married to Charles, and they had just had their newborn baby daughter Trisha. Vivian was also loved around town for her philanthropy and charity work, in particular with the Painscreek Community Hospital. But then Vivian suffered a nervous breakdown. She became bedridden in hospital, and during that stay, she would learn something that would change everything. She was no longer able to bear children. Charles had a mother, Magdalene, and Magdalene needed a grandson, a male heir to carry on the Roberts name. Vivian had given Charles a daughter, but she could not give him the grandson he needed, and this was a problem for Vivian. Conspiracies and murders. But Vivian would end up dealing with this problem in a way that makes her look less like an innocent victim. Hidden in Vivian's tea room, we find a letter from her doctor and close friend, Dr. Henry Johnson. In that letter, Dr. Johnson agrees to give Vivian poison so she can swap it with Magdalene's medicine. Magdalene was overbearing. She wanted a male heir. She threatened Vivian's position in the Roberts family, and then she died. Did Vivian kill her? And Magdalene was not the only problem for Vivian. Years later, Dr. Johnson also seems to have crossed Vivian. The details are still murky here, but he started to embezzle funds from the Painscreek Community Hospital. Soon after, he died under mysterious circumstances, drowned in his car beneath Cherry Creek Lake. So, Dr. Johnson helped Vivian with the poison, then he stole from her, and then he died. The maid. And this brings us to a name that keeps appearing around the edges of this case. Sophia. Sophia was a maid for the Roberts family 20 years ago. There are traces of her name in journals and documents around the game. She is mentioned only briefly. It looks like she vanished without a trace, but nobody knows where she went. Bringing up her name seems to make people uneasy. And then we discover the photograph. Hidden among the things of a private detective, we find this picture, and on the back is written, "The secret lies with her." So, she worked for the Roberts family 20 years ago, and then she disappeared. What happened to Sophia? The private detective. We are not the first person to ask this question. Years after Vivian was murdered, a private detective came to Painscreek. Someone hired him anonymously to check out this case. He checked into the inn and then started digging around. He started asking uncomfortable questions, and then he disappeared. His room started collecting late fees. His car, with his belongings inside, sat in the middle of town abandoned. By the time we get to the game, his car's still there. Eventually, we find the key to his motel room in the master bedroom of the Roberts mansion. The furniture in the room is disturbed. It looks like there was a struggle here. Look at the bloody handprint on his glove box. So, he came to town, started asking about Sophia, and then he disappeared. Did he find out too much? And if so, who got to him? the orphan. Back in 1995, after Vivian's murder, there was one obvious suspect, Scott Brooks. Scott was seen running from the scene of the crime. After the murder, he kept to himself for days, and when questioned, he admitted that he was at the mansion that night, but insists that he didn't kill Vivian. Scott had a motive too. 6 months before the murder, Scott was fired from his job at the mansion as a groundskeeper. Officially, it was because he was careless and lazy, but Scott believed there was another reason. He was in love with Vivian's daughter Trisha, and Trisha was in love with him too. Vivian hated this. To Vivian, Scott was not good enough for her daughter. He was not from the right family. He didn't have the right status. He was an orphan. So from the outside, he looks like the perfect suspect, but also critically, he was asking questions about Sophia. What happened to Sophia? Scott's journals become one of our most important sources. Through them, we trace his journey where he discovers the truth piece by piece, just like we are. Well, what did he find out? 20 years before the murder, while Vivian was in hospital, Charles Roberts had an affair with Sophia. Sophia became pregnant with a boy. Yes, the boy that Magdalene needed to carry on the Roberts family name. Vivian found out, and this was a problem for her. And we've already seen how Vivian deals with her problems. A guilty conscience. And this brings us to Andrew Reed. He was the old groundskeeper at the Roberts mansion. Before Scott took over, Scott started shadowing Andrew Reed, and he started asking questions about Sophia. Now, Andrew was actually around 20 years ago. This was before the alcohol, before the drugs, before his wife left with his son. But by 1995, he was a wreck. I mean, look at his place. We see writing on the wall, a damn pentagram, a mattress on the floor. Initially, we suspected Andrew might be the killer, but then we found out that he died a month before Vivian was killed. He burned down in his apartment as it was engulfed in flames. Walking through the wreckage, we find a few clues. Scratched on the wall is the phrase, "She is coming for us." Written in his diary, "Did I see her again? How can that be?" And this all seemed to intensify when Scott started asking questions about Sophia. So, what was Andrew afraid of? Was he haunted by guilt, or was he haunted by something else? Are ghosts real? This is a very strange question the game begins to ask. Throughout our investigation, we find out that death may not be the end in Painscreek. Not for a troubled soul. We have Andrew Reed's pentagram, of course. In the hospital, we find books about the afterlife. Is heaven real? And we find a pamphlet about whether ghosts are real. I'm not sure why this is in the hospital. Last time I checked, necromancy wasn't an approved medical intervention. The pamphlet says that spirits can become trapped in this world when something has been left unresolved. And in cases of murder, a spirit may stay until it gets its vengeance. So, when Andrew Reed writes, "She's coming for us," who is she? The horrible secret. So, what happened to Sophia? Scott finds out the truth piece by piece. As he does, so do we. 20 years ago, Sophia was confronted by Vivian, by Dr. Johnson, and by Andrew Reed. So, the woman that probably murdered Magdalene, the doctor who helped her, and a man who would spend every day after this night falling apart. A fight broke out near a well. This is the well near the playground. This is possibly the well where it happened. It's the only well we've found so far. Sophia fell, she hit her head, and she died. Instead of telling the truth, they buried it with Sophia. She was put into an unmarked grave, and her son Vincent was sent away to live in an orphanage. The same orphanage that Scott grew up in. Yep, has it clicked for you yet? Scott Roberts is almost certainly Vincent, Sophia's son, Charles Roberts' son, the hidden male heir that the Roberts family desperately needed. And if Scott is Vincent, then Trisha, his first love, is his half-sister. So, if Scott discovered the truth, would that make him want to kill Vivian? Or is something else happening here? Is Andrew right? Is Sophia coming for them? Other suspects. Obviously, this is a detective story, so if it looks like Scott did it now, he probably didn't do it. That's just how these things work. So, who else could have killed Vivian? Bernard, the mansion butler, is not exactly harmless. He has war medals. He has knife cases, and a knife is missing. Guns on the wall. Axe cases, and look, axes are missing too. There's also the question of Vivian. Reading Bernard's journals, it starts to feel as if he may have been in love with her. Who is my type? Vivian is crossed out. Was it obsession? Loyalty? We don't know yet, but we'll keep an eye out. And then there's Derek, the Roberts mansion chauffeur. Now he's the Jacob to Scott's Edward, if I may. Derek was in love with Trisha, and in his journals we find out that he lamented that she picked Scott instead. Well, Derek, I have some good news and some bad news. The good news? Scott is biologically disqualified. The bad news? They both died in 1995. Anyway, sure, Derek is resentful and maybe even jealous, but there's no clear motive. But what he does have is a very suspicious clue. Before Vivian died, she received a typewritten note. I know what you did. Meet me by the well at midnight. You know which one. Come alone. Derek owns the only typewriter that we have seen in the game so far. And after this, the suspect list gets thin. I'm really only including these people in case they make a push in the second half. Dorothy was Trisha's nanny, but she seems too timid to be our killer. Wanda, Derek's mother, had leukemia. Even if she was still alive when the murder happened, she was bedridden. Mary Martinez found the body, but we know nothing about her yet. We don't even have a picture. And then there is Charles. In real life, it's always the husband. But this is a video game, so who knows? We don't know enough about Charles to accuse him yet, but there is a clear, obvious motive. For instance, did Charles find out that Vivian conspired to murder his mother? If I had to pick someone now, it would still be Scott. You saw the last section, you know why that is. Going forward. And this is the case as it stands at halftime. Vivian Roberts is dead. Sophia's buried. Scott may be Vincent. The private detective is missing. And the truth is still there, somewhere behind some locked door, in some cryptic memo, somewhere in the game. So where do we go from here? If you want to uncover this mess in real time, the full Painscreek Killing playlist is in the description below. Or if you want to find out what happens next, subscribe and stay tuned. And if you like this kind of thing, conspiracies, hidden stories, abandoned places, evidence boards slowly turning into madness, why not check out my Infra series? This is probably the series I'm most proud of so far, and the game is so well written. One small note, my PC is having a little bit of trouble. I'm getting a lot of blue screens of death when I try and edit videos, so uploads may be a little bit less predictable going forward, but if you've seen this video, that's a good sign. When my computer is actually working, I upload every other day, but the plan is to keep going. We're only at halftime, and the Painscreek Killings isn't done with us yet. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.